Hey guys, we spent the past week talking about how to find the intercepts of a linear function and the slope of a linear function. Now we're going to use those two things so that we can graph pictures of these equations. So all of the equations that we're going to look at today will be in the following format: y equals mx plus b. So we should be used to this because I believe you do that in middle school. So when we are graphing equations that look like that, the first step is going to be to draw a point on the graph at 0, b. This is the y-intercept. So b, you're going to get from the equation. That's going to be the last thing in your equation here. Okay, next thing you want to do is slope. So slope is going to be m. That'll be right in front of the x. And remember that slope is always a fraction. So even if it looks like just a whole number, you need to convert it into a fraction. This way, we can count rise over run and draw some points. And once you have a few points drawn in, all you have to do is connect all the points that you have. Okay, so let's look at a few examples. So if you open up your notes and let's look at example number 1. We have y equals negative 2/3 x minus 2. So like I said before, whatever is in front of the x, that is your slope. So for us, slope is going to be negative 2/3. So because it's negative, if you remember that little cartoon clip that I showed you guys, negative is when it's going straight down like this. Nice negative. So it's going to go down 2 and then over 3. Okay, next, the last number in the equation, so we have minus 2. That's going to be our y-intercept. So at 0, negative 2. So that's actually where I want to start drawing my graph from that negative 2. So that would be right here on the y-axis, negative 2. And then now, using our slope, it's down 2 over 3. So from this point, down 2 over 3. Down 2 over 3. So it looks like I have space to draw in at least 2 points. And then using that pattern, I'm going to work backwards a little bit so I can tell that there should be 2 more points on the left side, just like this. And once you have those points drawn in, you can connect them. Just do your best to do a straight line. And I'm going to put arrows at the end because we know that linear functions extend forever. So that is what the graph of that equation would look like. Okay, let's do a second one. We have y equals 2x plus 1. The number before the x is our slope. So slope is 2. But remember what I said before, even if it's a whole number, you have to turn it into a fraction. So all we have to do is put it over 1. Okay, now it's positive, so it's going to be going up 2 over 1. Okay, the last number in the equation, positive 1, that'll be our y-intercept. So 0, 1. So let's graph that first. So positive 1 would be right there. And then now using our slope, we're going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. It looks like we have space to draw in 2 points. And then just using that pattern, I'm going to work backwards. So I think we can draw in a few more points here. And then we just connect it with as straight a line as you can do. Just try your best here. Okay, so that line represents the function 2x plus 1. Okay, and then our third example, we have 3x minus 4y equals negative 12. So this time around, it's not in y equals. We need it to look like y equals mx plus b, something like this. So the problem that we have right now is the y is not by itself. So let's do that first. So what we should do is I'm going to draw a line right here where the equal sign is at. Let's subtract 3x from both sides of that equal sign. So it'll cancel here, and I have negative 4y equals negative 3x minus 12. So remember, I couldn't combine because this bottom one has an x and the 12 does not, so they're not like terms. And they're both negative, so I just made sure they had minus signs in front of them. Okay, but this y is still not by itself, so this negative 4, we're going to divide. Okay, but that means everything. So left side and right side of the equation. So now I'm left with y equals negative 3 divided by negative 4. It doesn't simplify, it's still 3 over 4, but those double negatives turn it into a positive 3 over 4 x. And then here, negative 12 divided by negative 4. Again, this turns positive 3. Okay, so that's the equation that we need to follow. But now, what are the slope and y-intercept? Slope is in front of Ex, so slope is 3 over 4. Okay, and then y-intercept is the last number. So 0, 3. Okay, so let's graph that positive 3. And then our slope is 3 over 4. So starting from that y-intercept, we're going to go up 3 over 4. So it looks like we just have space to do 1 point, but I'm going to work backwards. So down 3 to the left 4, and that gives me space for another point. And then just connect them doing as straight a line as you can. Arrows on the end because lines continue forever. So that linear function would look something like that if you were to graph it. Okay, so those are our 3 graphs. But now we need to know how to go backwards as well. So if they give us a picture of a graph, we need to be able to say what the equation of that graph is. So let's go back to the front of our notes. There's a few things that you're going to need to look at. So I would start by finding any 2 points and counting how many units up and how many units to the side, and that would give me slope. So if you remember, one of the shortcut formulas that I showed you was this right here, the change in y divided by the change of x. So that's what you're counting. How many units did it change vertically divided by how many units did it change horizontally. Okay, we also need our y-intercept here. So wherever the point crosses the y-axis, that is going to be the y-intercept. So for us, on this example, it's crossing right there. And whatever number that is, that's what we're going to use for b in the equation. Okay, so let's look at some examples of this. So open up to the inside. Let's look at example number 4. Okay, so one of the easiest things to remember or to identify is the y-intercept. So I can see that it's crossing right there. I'm just going to label it y-intercept. And that is at 0, 1. So I know that my equation is going to have that 1 at the end. Okay, now to calculate slope, I need one more point to look at. So it has to be going exactly through the corner. So I'm just going to go through. And it looks like right here would actually be a good point. So, and then also right here would also be another good point. So there's a bunch you can pick from. So it looks like I have to go up 1, so that would be positive 1, and then across 2. So the slope is positive 1 over 2. So now all I have to do is put those things together. Y equals, slope goes first, so 1/2 x, and then our y-intercept was positive 1, so plus 1. That's the equation for that graph. Okay, let's look at the next one. Easiest thing to identify is the y-intercept, so it looks like it's down here this time at 0, -4. So I know we're going to have to use that -4 in a little bit. Okay, now let's pick 2 points where we can find slope from. So I usually start from the point that we just had, and let's look to see where the nearest other point, so it looks like right here. And if I keep going, I can find a few more. So any point that you choose is going to give you the same slope. So I'm going to do these top 2 up here. So it looks like we have to go down 1, 2, 3. So since we're going down, it's going to be -3. And then we go across just 1. So slope, I'm going to write it here, would be -3 over 1. But you don't have to write it like that. You could just write the -3. So now our actual equation here is y equals, we start with our slope, so -3x, and then -4 because of our y-intercept. Okay, now last example. Let's identify the y-intercept first. So it's crossing at +2. We're going to need that 2 later on. Okay, now let's pick at least one more point. If we can find more, that would be better. So it looks like I can find 2 other points. So I'm going to choose this first point and the y-intercept since they are close together. So it goes down only 1 unit, so that's -1, but it goes across 1, 2, 3, 4. So slope here would be -1 over 4. And now we just got to put it all together. Y equals, start with the slope, so -1 over 4, x, and then our y-intercept was +2. Okay, and that's how we find the equation from a graph. So 2 main things. You have to know how to find slope and how to find the y-intercept. So, and you also need to know how to go both directions. So given a graph, find the equation, and given the equation, find the graph. If you have any questions, just send me a message through Schoology and I will try to answer you as soon as I can.